Hello, everybody. Paul as well. Sorry about that close up. Welcome to the Sports Talk Network. Welcome to this video. And look, TV show's back with the Thanksgiving break that was last week now. As one of the shows that I review is back for me to review. And there's Riverdale now. This won't be returning until next year, 2020, but Riverdale's here. Along with countless other shows that I enjoy. And then in 2020, a show returns that I do weekly reviews of. And that's Last Man Standing. Sorry about that. It's been gone for so long. I forgot to review it. But here, let's talk about the TV show Riverdale. Riverdale review and review series. Review and theories of Riverdale, as I will share my thoughts here from my notes and go with the flow. But yeah, over 4 seasons, Riverdale has put its young ensemble through a full-on amazing parade of drama, blood and lip-synced grief. Musical numbers, but this unusual little episode decides for once to take all the pain they've suffered seriously. After another round of creepy videotapes appear on the town's doorsteps, and more disturbingly, college admissions decisions being to roll in. The unfortunately named guidance counselor, Mr. Burble, holds extended office hours, offering the Core 4+1 some much needed holiday in express psychology. So let's break them down at one. Sorry, one by one, we'll start with Betty here and Alice. Miss Smith, has taken the liberty not just of opening her daughter's mail, but upon learning Betty got rejected from Yale, ransacking her bedroom only to find birth control pills hidden in her drawer. Then again, this is besides the point, but assuming Betty is reasonably well on, and did reasonably well in the SATs and wrote her Common App essay about her serial killer father and her cold dabbling mother, I refuse to believe there is a universe on the face of this Earth, planet, whatever, that would not accept her. With the possible exception of the associate's degree program at the Never Institute of Alternative Bible Studies in amateur rocketry, but beyond that, she golden. But on to Alice, unlike any viewer who has caught at least 3 consecutive minutes of this television show, her daughter's comes as a very unwelcome surprise, and it must be the cause of her rejection from Yale, right? Or not. Betty goes to see Mrs. Burble. Betty goes to see Mrs. Burble to vent about her controlling mother who should crash their appointment but her controlling mother. In Miss Burble's estimation, Alice, who's unexpected, whose story might have something to do with having had a baby herself at 16, or perhaps with her older daughter having 2 babies at 16, is afraid of her little girl growing up. Why doesn't she go smother Polly with affection instead? Alice is shocked to hear herself say that it's because she loves Betty the most of all her kids. Look at that. Favorite. Good for Betty, I guess. In that good regard. Back home, Betty finds a check made out to her from her mother, with the memo identifying it as the first of 10 to replace her college fund. I love you most too, Mom. There you go. She tells Alice. And I'm annoyed for approximately these times. Riverdale making me cry. It was an interesting moment. It certainly was. Well, but either way, Things are getting interesting. Now on to Archie. Archie is sent to Mrs. Burble after he falls asleep in ninth class. He explains that he hasn't applied to college because it's his responsibility to stick around and clean up the town, like Fred would have. But isn't it already enough that he opened the community center? She asks. His visible cuts and bruises aren't lost on Mrs. Burble, unlike apparently everyone else in Riverdale. And soon enough, he spills about his nightly superhero habit. She characterizes his vigilante behavior as a dangerous addiction. Instead, he should funnel all his pain and rage into the community center, or maybe start an anonymous tip line for local crime. Archie seemingly takes Burble's advice to heart. Over Mary's protests, and out of a desire to protect her, our legally of age hero moves out of the family home into the community center. Archie prints out flyers of his Riverdale hotline and records an answering machine message inviting callers to report problems in the neighborhood. He even throws his mask into the trash as well. But, as they always say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. As soon as Archie gets a call from a boy who says that his mother has been the victim of a violent neighbor, he's out the door with a baseball bat and mask retrieved from the garbage in hand. So, there you go. At least there you go for Archie. Now we're moving on to Cheryl. Cheryl's sworn enemy, Principal Annie, threatens to abolish her as leader of the River Vixens over her 26 absences. If she wants to remain Captain, Burble will have to declare her psychologically fit first. So I would say, in regards to Cheryl, that this episode is a great reminder that amongst the competitive field, Cheryl nevertheless reigns as our drama MVP. Teenagers appeal of her credentials, her twin brother's murder, her father's suicide, her time in conversion therapy, her time with Edgar, her near-death experience in Sweetwater River, and literally everything that has happened to, or especially because of her mother. Burble praises her resilience, and in spite of herself, Cheryl opens up, tears streaming down her face. She wants to know, has she lost her mind? And by the way, before you answer, you should know she's been having conversations with her brother Zach Schwillebani, which she believes answers her back. So there. Also, there's the whole evil doll / triplet situation. So fun times for sure. Mrs. Burble, who sure is an open-minded lady, you have to give her that, insists Cheryl is not crazy. There are no ghosts haunting her, only grief and guilt. For Cheryl's own well-being, she's going to recommend that Honey bring in an adult cheerleading coach, but the guidance counselor / part-time investigator leaves the Blossom heiress with two intriguing suggestions. First, is it possible that Julian's supposed possession is really the result of someone gaslighting Cheryl, moving the doll around specifically to torment her? And second, she should have her own DNA tested to confirm if she really absorbed a triplet after all. And indeed, Cheryl's test results will come back negative, no trace of Julian in her genes. So who do we think is doing the gaslight? Could it be Tony in a very upsetting heel turn, or turning man, or kind of turning on Cheryl? Nana Rose, demonstrating impressive spryness, or has Penelope secretly moved into the rest of the house's act a la George Bush Sr. Moving on to Veronica. Veronica is elated to learn of her acceptance to Harvard, but less so when she discovers that her alumnus father sent the teen of admissions rum and who knows what other forms of bribery and or blackmail. She confides in Mrs. Burble, that Hiram's long arm Our corruption has managed to turn her dream school into her nightmare. Now she'll never know if she could have made it in on her own. Hiram may have had everyone Veronica loves criminally compromised and or arrested and or nearly killed, and yet, Burble notes, she continues to live at home and obey her father. That is true. She invokes Hermione and Hiram are mutually obsessed. Father and daughter each seeing the other as an extension of the self. She cut ties for good, for good this time, unlike the last time or the time before that and time before that. And so Veronica turns down Harvard to her father's rage and declares her intention to kill him. So, okay. Via business, though. And specifically via producing her own rum. So, cheers. Cheers to that. Oh, hold on. I gotta check something out. I guess I know that. Anyways, moving on to Jughead. The young man. Alright, speaking about Jughead, the young man sure to be voted Stonewall, perhaps most likely to be murdered, finds himself on Mrs. Burble's couch when he returns to Riverdale High in need of a copy of his transcript. It takes only 30 seconds of his ranting about bringing down the Baxter Brothers empire, like a normal person, to inspire Mrs. Burble to speculate that his convenient persecution complex might be an excuse to neglect the writing he really should be doing. And what effect must his glorifying obsession with his grandfather be having on his dad, who suffered through appease drunken rages? I thought he transformed himself, in spite of his upbringing, into an upstanding member of society. Jughead had his home to give MP a big old hug, so that's cool. And in the space of several extremely productive hours, Jughead also gets around to completing all of his college applications and finally turning out a Baxter Brothers sample, not to mention discovering that every member of the Quill and Skull Society, except for his MIA grandfather and DuPont, died in a variety of highly suspicious freak accidents. And with that, to end the episode, cut to our first flash forward in a while, in which Brett and Donna identify Betty, Veronica, and Archie in a lineup as the kids we saw kill Jughead. So weird, but interesting all at the same time, folks. That's for sure. I mean, it's certainly interesting to see how everything's going moving forward in the show and how that is back. Love it. But anyways, hope you all are doing well and hope you all have a great rest of your evening. I'll be back for my next video, wherever it's soon to be. And above all else, as always, take care.